SCORE Northeast Wisconsin and WHBY are pleased to bring you Biztalk, a chance for you to hear from entrepreneurs and professionals as they share their experiences. From starting to sustaining growth, learn the skills needed for your business to be successful. If you miss anything, you can catch the Biztalk podcast at score.org/Northeast Wisconsin. And now from the Myron Construction Studio, it's Biztalk on WHBY.
Good morning and welcome to SCORE, Biztalk with SCORE, that is, on WHBY. I'm Rick Sense along with Terry Pinch. And Terry, it's May. Would you believe it? It's May already?
I know. It means biking season is like days away.
Yes, I know. I'm anxious. It's been so wet this spring so far. It's been hard to get out on the bike too much. Have you gotten out?
No, mine's in the basement. It's coming out in the next week.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm really excited about today's guest. I've known our guest for, Nick, how long have we known each other? Is it 10 years now almost?
Oh, it's got to be close. I think 2017,
okay,
2018, somewhere right in there.
Yeah, okay. Nick Badilla, who is a Tom James Professional Clothier, has his own business, Tom James Fox Valley, as part of the Tom James family. And he's our guest today, and I'm excited to talk to Nick. And one of the things that I've gotten to know about Nick over the years is he has a great passion for everything he does. He does things very well. He does them efficiently, and he's very, very funny. So having put him on the spot, I'm going to start. Just give us a little background, Nick. Can you give listeners an idea of who you are and what your resume is like prior to starting with Tom James Clothiers?
Absolutely. One, just want to say thanks for having me on and allowing me the opportunity to kind of share some knowledge in my story and get some exposure here. A little backstory about me is I'm not actually originally from Wisconsin. I was born in California, but I've lived here the majority of my life. Went to school at North High School, eventually to Eau Claire for college, and then resulting in the Twin Cities where I got exposed to Tom James. And that's where I've been since college. This is my one and only gig, coming right out of the gates. I have a younger brother. He's 3 years younger than me. He has a much better beard than I do, which I'm jealous of. But I do have a full head of hair still. So I guess, beggars can't be choosers when it comes to that. But yeah, I'm the product of people who have been in business and a salesman. My dad's been in every aspect of business throughout his entire career, still working as he's in his early 70s. And my mom's got a business background as well. So it was a natural step into, making a degree change at Eau Claire, to marketing and sales and then discovering Tom James. And here we are. It's a good fit. I was the kid in high school that would always dress up for away swim and dive meets, shirt and tie. There's a picture of me, I'm pretty sure, at like 4 or 5 years old wearing a seersucker suit. So I think it was just kind of foreshadowing of where I was going to be later in life.
So maybe if you could give listeners a clue of what Tom James is, just so in case they're not familiar with the brand.
Yeah, absolutely. Tom James is celebrating 60 years of existence here in 2026, which is super cool. We started as a traditional men's clothing store in 1966 with a single outfit in Nashville, Tennessee, of all places. So imagine going into a store, seeing cloth and stuff like that, a little bit more old school back then, of course, and going through a custom-made process, much what you've seen maybe like in the movies, The Kingsman and stuff like that, where there's a tailor shop, you go and get a console, garments get made. So as you fast forward from 1966 to 2026, we have probably 100 offices plus or minus worldwide. So we're in Europe, we're in Canada, predominantly North America, Australia. I believe we still have an office in Denmark as well, Germany. So things are expanding. And under our umbrella, we have 11 different manufacturing facilities and woolen mills that we control, own, and operate. So we're vertically integrated from basically sheep's back to your back is how our process is, and we control every step of the way.
So what kind of person calls or looks to meet you and actually is a Tom James customer?
Great question. I think overall I can help most people. I think everybody needs one good suit, one good jacket, for the happy and sad moments in life. But I would say a lot of people that come to Tom James or discover Tom James as a prospective client or customer, they're just struggling with the different challenges that come with the wardrobe. Some of it, sometimes it's fit, sometimes it's convenience. There isn't enough variety or exposure to different stores. here in the Fox Valley, it's a lot different than shopping on Michigan Avenue in Chicago or the Mall of America in Minneapolis. Some people just don't have the confidence in coordination and want to rely on an expert to help curate pieces and mixing and matching and things like that come to it. And obviously, I think a better quality product or a higher quality product than what they're used to. Longevity, comfort, fit, all that kind of stuff really plays into that spoke of the wheel.
So when you're looking to develop new business, can you maybe walk listeners through what your process is for identifying and then reaching out to potential customers? I mean, who do you look at? Who do you think would be a good fit for what you're offering?
Absolutely. So a real quick sidebar to that, or an anecdote maybe is the better word. I actually started pursuing the Fox Valley from afar in the Twin Cities early on in my career because I watched what my boss or my leader was doing. He's originally from Cedar Rapids, so I saw a small market that didn't have a physical presence that I was like, oh, I could probably do that. And just having watched what he did, visiting family, keeps mom happy with coming back to visit it more frequently after college. So I knew that was a plus or an advantage. But it started really with LinkedIn. That's ultimately how you and I got connected once upon a time, Rick, is I comb through LinkedIn. I'm looking for different people across the board. Some of it is, how are they dressed in their photo? What's their industry? What company do they work for? What's their title, their tenure, position? Things like that are all of the different things that I keep in mind as I try to figure out, okay, who is this person and would I want to work with them? Not necessarily would they benefit from this off the get. It's because I want to work with good people and I want to work with like-minded people and those that would appreciate the service. I've called on enough challenging individuals in my short 12-year career now thus far. And I think the refining process has just been that, looking for really solid people in the business community here in northeastern Wisconsin, central Wisconsin, and the Upper Peninsula, serving all of those three different areas.
So, Nick, how much of your business or customer search still starts with LinkedIn, and how much is based on the network you've built over time?
It's definitely gotten better as far as with the network. I've been serving the Fox Valley since March of 2016. And by the time we moved home here to serve people full time, I was here every other week for like 4 days. So it was a lot of driving coming over from Minneapolis to be here. But now I definitely think the networking or the LinkedIn prospecting, connecting, looking for people like that, it's still there. It's not to the nth degree that it used to be when I was first trying to break into the market and try to establish a presence. It's still a heavy, heavy tool in my business, but it ultimately leads me to the opportunity of putting together names lists or hot lists, as we call it in our world, in the land of Tom James, to be able to ask people for referrals. And then as long as I'm doing good work, I'm doing what I say I do and keeping things very real and 100 for people. I'm grateful for the more organic introductions and authentic introductions that have come as of late. A lot of people have just been doing a text intro saying, hey, I got a compliment here. I think you really like this guy. This is the experience. Nick, I'll let you take it from here.
So when you mentioned referrals, how much of your business is referral right now, would you say?
Well, it's a great question and probably a tough one to answer. There's times, I think there's like peaks and valleys where I really feel like I'm getting the referrals. I'm really on top of asking. And then there's times where maybe there's a lot more newer business going on, or maybe more so you're seeing a lot more of your residual clientele. And obviously, if you work with somebody for 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, you've kind of combed through their network quite a bit. So it's getting more creative with your referral questions. For example, I'd probably say most of my prospecting is still LinkedIn, maybe 40% being referrals, just because I'm pretty laissez-faire with my business. I want people to feel comfortable, working with me, establishing trust, the relationship, ultimately before I start asking to pick their brain and say, hey, who do you know here? Or, do you know anybody at this company? Or when's the last time you got a compliment from somebody that you didn't tell me about? Things like that.
Now, earning a referral is tough in and of itself, and there's a lot that goes into that. Can you maybe walk the listeners through the business model of what an experience with a Tom James Clothier is? I mean, from the point of, hey, you've just made contact with me and I've agreed that, yes, this is something I want to take a look at. What happens next?
Once I get somebody on the phone or, responding to an email or a text message, LinkedIn message, smoke signal, carrier pigeon, whatever the method of conversation happens, it's really not so much selling what I do on the phone. I learned early on in my career, especially in the early parts of training, it's really just selling the appointment and then letting what we do kind of speak for itself once we're actually sitting down. So the conversation very much is around setting the appointment, trying to book it as close to present day as possible to limit the opportunity of cancellation, booking a week out, 2 weeks out, 6 months out, whatever, that's a greater probability of not getting in front of somebody and then spending a lot of time chasing to get rescheduled. So once we set the meeting, there's some qualifying questions that I'll go through. It's pretty basic and I don't really deviate from it because I don't want to take a ton of time on the phone. Most of the people that I'm engaging with are fairly busy or I'm catching them off guard and they're in the midst of something themselves. So wanting to be conscientious and respectful, but it's really just digging in on what they're wearing day to day. Where have they been shopping? What are the brands that they like? And then what are the pressing needs or wants? Are there things that need to be replaced because they're just getting tired? I mean, that's kind of been more of the modus operandi with people as they've come out of 2020 as a whole. And as we get further out, my stuff's just kind of tired. I haven't done anything since 2019 and I need a few fresh things.
So if I'm going to take a browse through a store, how do I do that with you? Because I mean, there are some Tom James locations, but it's not a typical like Clothier from the standpoint of like a J.C. Penney where there's just hop in your car, go park in the mall and go see it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you maybe give listeners a flavor and idea of ways that I can purchase what I need from you?
Absolutely. So the uniqueness of our model comes to our corporate saying more or less that we've had since our inception is, we come to you with fine clothing. I've taken it so far to just, I come to you at your convenience. So when you're working with someone like me or my colleagues in any of the major cities across the lower 48, let's say, we have an office that we can begin and end our day in. Typically, we aren't seeing people there unless they prefer to keep home and work separate. Discretion is probably one of the more unique value adds that I've discovered in my career that a lot of people appreciate more than I would have guessed. But otherwise, I'm working towards meeting clients with whatever is best for their schedule at the time we are setting our appointment. So that's typically at their home or their office. And then think of me having the whole store, most of what you may need from the neck down, right at your fingertips, right at your kitchen table, at your desk in your office, and then being able to come back with those pieces and saving you time, not having to go back to the store, go back to do another fitting, and then, run around with some of the logistics.
So if I want to try something on, how do I do that? Obviously, you're not carrying a trunk of clothes with you.
No, I'm not.
Yeah. So how does that happen?
Absolutely. So the challenging part, and I think I run into it as people get more exposed to this idea of the service or the experience of the service, is that the bread and butter of my business is custom making things. So we get together and we'll comb through one of the collections you may choose to look at fabrics through. I take upwards of 40 different measurements to create your pattern. In addition to that, I take 3 photos, front, side, and back. So think of your mug shots standing there with the little sign and the numbers or whatever. Just not with that, of course. But then going through the review process, and then when you actually get to try your clothing on is when they're done being created from scratch and I'm delivering them to you. And then you can refine that with me. You can tell me what's on your mind, what you like, what you don't like. I want to improve this. I want a little bit more room here. And then we can adjust that. And then all of that is proactively applied to the pattern that we've just created. So ideally, every time someone is receiving a garment from me that they've ordered, I'm hoping it'll be their new favorite fit, their new favorite comfort level. And that's where the consistency side of things will play into it too, is that you're working with me and I'm making those changes real time for you.
All right. We've hit the point where we're going to take our first break this morning, listening to Biztalk with Score on WHBY, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to Biztalk with Score on WHBY. I'm Rick Sense along with Terry Pinch this week. And we are talking with Nick Badilla, who is a Tom James Professional Clothier with Tom James Fox Valley, and we'll get back to our great conversation with Nick in just a moment. But first, I just want to spend a few seconds talking to you about SCORE Northeastern Wisconsin. SCORE Northeastern Wisconsin serves a 29-county area in northeast and north central Wisconsin. We have more than 50 volunteers, each an expert in their field, offering entrepreneurs no-cost confidential mentoring. Those areas of expertise include IT, social media, marketing, cash flow, accounting, strategic planning, workflow, HR, retail best practices, and so many others. In order to register for a no-cost confidential mentoring session and or to learn more about SCORE Northeast Wisconsin, please visit our website at score.org/Northeast Wisconsin. You can learn more about how the SCORE chapter can assist you with starting and or growing your business, and you can complete an application for a mentoring session. Simply complete the online form and submit it to SCORE. Within a few days, a SCORE mentor will be contacting you to set up a meeting. Remember, SCORE is no cost and offers experts who can offer you assistance in many different areas. To get started, please visit our website at score.org/Northeast Wisconsin. And to support small business people, SCORE Northeastern Wisconsin is always looking for new mentors. If you have experience that you would like to share with others, we'd love to talk to you. We welcome volunteers with experience in all aspects of business. Small business owners need your help, and your experience can make a real difference to their success. Go to score.org/Northeast Wisconsin, click on the volunteer button and fill out the short application, and we'll get back to you to explain more. And finally, this reminder about the Biztalk with SCORE podcast. The Biztalk with SCORE podcast brings you the same real-world information and insights from experienced entrepreneurs and business leaders, just like Biztalk with SCORE on WHBY. However, the Biztalk with SCORE podcast is available when you are. So listen and subscribe today, tomorrow, or whenever you want. Available on most podcatchers and podcast apps. So thanks again for joining us this morning on Biztalk, and I'll turn the show over to you, Terry.
Okay, thanks, Rick. And again, we're talking to Nick Badilla of Tom James Professional Clothiers, and he is the owner of the Tom James Fox Valley organization. So with that, Nick, want to start a little bit just talking about how important previous experience is in learning how to sell and work with clients. So can you talk to us about how you build previous experience and into your approach with the next prospect, and how you adjust your approach over time?
Absolutely. I think a lot of what I've done as far as my evolution and, adaptation or being able to just move in that direction of how do I get better, I think it's just always an opportunity when something goes sideways, right? That is where we learn from different things. So a couple examples really quick come to mind. Sometimes if you're trying to get in front of a prospect, sometimes it's the right name, and that's all it takes. There's an individual in Green Bay that I had been referred to 3 different times by 3 different people. And when I finally got in front of a newer client at the time and talked about it with him during that meeting we had together, he texted the individual and said, "Go ahead, he's expecting your call or your text, and I can give you his direct information." And that ultimately got me a 15-minute meeting, which was really cool because it was, not going anywhere from the previous 3 connections that I thought were going to, help open that door. And sometimes it just takes number 4 to be able to make that happen. The other time that comes to mind is more of a challenging opportunity. I had a client early on in 2016 that I was working with here, still works with me to this day, which I'm grateful for. But we went fast and furious in the paint, had experience with custom elsewhere outside of the country and through other travels and stuff like that, different opportunities. And ultimately, I failed to ask how things were going. I failed to ask how did he like the things that we were doing, what was working, what was not working, how can I improve fit, comfort, how's the fabric, etc. And I could tell over probably 2, maybe 3 different meetings that something was off. And I typically will go to my dad for a lot of different coaching aspects because he's just a great resource to have in my back pocket. And ultimately he said, you got to ask the hard question. And I did. and I got the truth, which was great. It was 10 different garments that I'm going to refer to in this story, 8 sport coats or just 8 jackets by themselves and 2 suits, and 9 of them were not acceptable or satisfactory. And they're, custom garments, of course, so they're not as easy just to put back on the shelf, like a traditional retail operation. So I asked him what was the opportunity that I could do, or what he felt I could do to make things right. And he didn't really have a straight answer. So I just said, here's what I think is the right thing to do. You tell me if this is acceptable. And I ended up remaking not all 9 of the things he didn't like in brand new fabric. It's very costly. It's an expensive mistake, and a great learning one. Subsequently, I haven't really run into that since, because I've gotten a lot better, at asking questions and double checking things with people. But gratefully, at the time, he had only ever given me like 1 or 2 referrals. I had a new person training with me, and he got 15 names from that client, which I thought was super cool. And I think because of what I was willing to do to help that particular client, he knew I had his back always and was always going to try to do the right thing by him and recognize that I'm human. I'm going to make mistakes, but I'll always own up to it. And he helped take care of my new guy.
Okay. So the other side of this is when you're selling premium garments like this, I'm sure you hear occasionally, oh, that's too much money. That's too expensive. How do you manage that?
That's very accurate. And I think a lot of it stems from initially just not necessarily the clearest of understandings of what I do and just what custom clothing is like. Many people initially will think it's thousands of dollars, $6,000, $5,000, $10,000 to get a suit. In reality, it doesn't have to be like that. Now, there are price points available that I can help with at that level, and above, upwards of buying a new car. But not everybody, I think, is necessarily, that's the first thought, is it's affordable. After that, if it's a price objection, typically that's the one thing you really can't overturn. I mean, this is a discretionary product that I'm offering. It's not like I'm a paper mill and I'm calling on my rep to supply me the raw material to continue making paper that then I'm selling to my customers, right? So I think a lot of it is, if it's a true price objection, can't afford it, it's not in the budget right now because of this, that, and the other thing. It's the one objection I really can't overturn. But if they have invested in their wardrobe and have taken the time to upgrade the quality and stuff, it's really just asking more questions to better understand, why. If you're spending $500 or $600 on a suit, where's the apprehension, the uncertainty, the concern, reservation to go from $600 to $900, $1,000. So it's really just working to understand that difference in price. And then maybe it's a quality thing. Maybe it's a previous experience investing at that level was a little detrimental or wasn't great, negative, what have you. But it just comes back to asking more questions and making sure that the true objection is revealed or the true concern is revealed, because not everybody's as direct as I would hope they would be, especially in a first time meeting. You don't know, I don't know you don't know me. So how truthful do you feel comfortable being? If that makes kind of sense, or if that kind of answers the question.
It does. Thank you very much. We are going to take our second break. You're listening to Biztalk with Score on WHBY, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to Biztalk with Score. I'm Terry Finch, and with me this week is Rick Sense, our co-host, and we're talking to Nick Badilla of Tom James Professional Clothier. Before we get back to Nick, I have a quick education update to give you. This coming week is National Small Business Week, and as a part of that, SCORE will be providing a series of online webinars, most of them free, that you can go and participate in to learn more about different aspects of business. If you go to our website, score.org/Northeast Wisconsin, and click on the workshops and events tab, you'll come right to those events that are coming up. And just 2 of them I wanted to highlight to give you examples are, one is small business financial management, what to put in place for every stage of your business. And that's on May 6th at 12:30 Central Time. The other one is the Boomerpreneur Roadmap, how to leverage your unique advantages in starting a business as an older entrepreneur. And that's May 6th as well at 3 o'clock Central Time. So if you go out there, you'll find another 4 or 5 different webinars on AI, on financing and other aspects of running a small business, and very important. So go take a look and you'll learn a lot from those. So with that, I'm going to turn it back to Rick.
Thank you, Terry. And we're talking with Nick Badilla, who has an interesting career working for Tom James Fox Valley, business that he owns, and you're Professional Clothier. And you made an interesting comment in the last segment, and I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit with this, Nick. You said, how truthful do you want to be when you first meet someone? And I get that context, but would you give a little bit more detail of what your thought process is behind that for listeners to get an idea of the type of things that you're addressing with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think when we meet somebody for the first time, whether you're going on a date or you're doing something in business, you're going to a networking event, etc., the conversation you might have with yourself consciously or subconsciously is really around like, what are you comfortable sharing? Not necessarily, I think maybe omitting things might be the better way to describe this, because you're not like outwardly lying about things, right? But you may not necessarily feel comfortable with a complete stranger to share your deepest, darkest secrets, of course. So I think a lot of it, when you're in a position like me, or you're starting a business, you're an entrepreneur, and you're just trying to get things rocking and rolling, I think people really appreciate the opportunity to be around somebody who they get the sense is very authentic, true to themselves, genuine. I think that's where you can kind of see, if you're the fly on the wall, you can see somebody let their hair down, feel more comfortable sitting back in their chair, uncrossing their arms, as far as like, more defensive body language that you might be observing. And that's where you're going to get the real truth. You may not get it on the phone when you're talking to somebody. Like when I reach out to somebody to set an appointment, you're certainly not going to get it over an email or a text, because there's no tone of voice, can't hear anything. You're just assuming what it sounds like in your own head as you read it. I think that by just asking really good questions, being thoughtful, and coming in with the service mindset of, Rick, I'm here to help. You talked a little bit about some challenges with your wardrobe. Here's where I think the value opportunity is, and I'd like to spend some time really digging in on those things for you to make sure it's a good fit. Would that be okay? How does that sound, right? Confirming, looking for the series of yeses. And as you do that, that's where the trust, at least in my experience, that's, I think, where the trust is initially established. And then it's just simply following through on what you say you're going to do thereafter.
You specifically wanted to work for Tom James out of college. I mean, that was, you discovered the product and you just fell in love with it. Can you maybe give listeners an idea of why you wanted to represent it so strongly?
It really just made sense. Being a fashionista and a clothes hound myself, that was the initial pull. Look really cool, dress like a baller, as people may or may not still say today, or whatever they're saying. And then subsequently thereafter, what's kept me here has been the opportunity to serve people. I believe that I was put here on earth to help. And this is my vehicle to help people and make an impact. And a lot of Tom James's principles that they built the company on, the founder, Spencer Hayes, built the company on, and everybody else that subsequently has continued his legacy after his passing in 2017, has just kind of kept things more principally based in service mindset, whether it's, helping make you some pants, or it's just simply being a resource and educational piece to help you feel good about the purchases you're making elsewhere. I think that is just where I do my best work. And that's why the pull to stay here, regardless of the peaks and valleys that come with the sales, opportunity, right? We've all been in that. When things are good, they're great. And when things are bad, they're really bad. That's what keeps me grounded. And the fact that I think that if I were to leave, it would be a horrendous inconvenience to all the clients that I've built relationships with over the last 12 years.
Listeners, I have to tell you, you can't see Nick, but he is definitely the picture of haute couture. If you saw Nick, you'd know exactly what I'm talking about. And every time I've ever seen Nick, he's always impeccably dressed. Everything's just manicured perfectly. And why is that so important to you in your line of work? But what lessons can you share with why it's so important to you in this line of work that others should learn for their line of work? What kind of things, why is that such an important detail for you?
Things come to mind when you ask that question, Rick. The first one is, I've heard it from tons and tons of people, is dress for the job you want, not the job you have. If you want to climb the ladder, so to speak, in your organization, you want to elevate yourself, you want the lifestyle, the amenities, the income, whatever is important to you of the people that you're serving, then you need to kind of taste that dream as frequently as you can to keep you motivated. I've really leaned into that as I've gotten older. And by older, I mean, I started my career at 23. I'm 35. It's not that old. I get it. But 23-year-old Nick, wanted to dress more so to be taken seriously, removing the earrings, shaving the facial hair, and realizing I'm calling on potentially pretty conservative individuals in their 50s and 60s. And why should they trust a 23-year-old fresh out of college? And I think that's where some of the appearance side of things is you only get and that's the other one, is you only get one opportunity to make a first impression. Everybody will see how you are dressed. Only a fraction or a percentage of people will see the car you drive or the home that you live in. But 100% of the time, people will see you as you walk around, as you're on publications and things like that. They're going to see how you're dressing. So why not take advantage of an opportunity to just look good and feel good? That's when you do your best work. You're on your A game. You look at anybody who's going into a big presentation. They're not rolling in with a hoodie and sweatpants. They're dressed to the nines. They look like Wolf of Wall Street, and they want to showcase that they're legitimate. They're an expert, whatever that may be. And I think that's where those two come hand in hand, or the crossroads of those two come together. And I think as a younger individual, or as you're starting a business, you just want that credibility.
Right. So how do you stay on top of all the global fashion that's out there? I mean, you offer advice to people. So what keeps you giving fresh advice based on the latest designs? How do you do that?
Absolutely. Thankfully, behind the scenes with corporate, we have just constant ongoing training, whether it's new fabrics we're implementing. A lot of people really like performance-based stuff right now. That is kind of the hottest trend, whether it's in your golf polos, your golf pant type of experience, but also now being in your dress clothes or business casual clothing. So we have a lot of information that comes out internally. We have morning meetings 3 days a week, provided corporate content, a video maybe, what have you, that keeps you up to date. And we're constantly rolling out new things, especially like on our women's side of our business. We revamped that and re-released it in July of 2020, and it's been nothing but up and to the right on the graph. I don't think we've quite doubled year over year, but we've been really close. And I think we're on track for getting to like maybe $100 million in sales on our women's business as a company much faster than what we would have anticipated. And a lot of it stems from just what's new and what's fresh and keeping things very interesting for both men and women that we have the privilege to serve.
So question for you then is you're learning all of these styles and what's coming to the market. How do you tell a client that they probably shouldn't buy what they want to buy, or that may not look as good on them as they think?
Well, I'm never going to tell somebody no that they can't have what they want. I've only ever done it once in my career, and it cost the relationship because I didn't feel comfortable making something that I thought was going to be a failure from the get. Right? It's a custom product with very specific instructions. I didn't feel we were going to be able to meet it. So I said, hey, in good conscience, I can't go forward. I think it's best we cancel the order and I refund your money. We'll do something different when we're not pressed for time and we're not working with very specific parameters. But I am very direct and transparent with people. I'm always keeping their best interest in mind, and I'm not suggesting things that I don't think are going to look good or work for them. But that being said, there are some people who just really like some interesting stuff, and that's just that. The hope is that when it comes in, and Terry, this is kind of a short anecdote to bring it full circle here, is I'll make suggestions and we'll pick something out, but nothing gets made until it's approved by you as the client, let's say, Terry. And then it comes in, you put it on, you're like, I don't like it. And it's not a fit thing. It's not a fabric thing. You just don't like how it looks. You don't like how it looks on you. Whatever that may be, I'm not going to leave you with something that you're not going to like and love, or you're not going to wear. I'm not here to, have you feel like you just sunk a bunch of money in something. But it is something that when we do redo it for you, we'll probably be doing something that's far more classic or conservative or traditional, as opposed to something that's a little more adventurous. Because if you like how it looks on the mannequin, but then you put it on yourself, it's a lot different than just being able to take it back to the store, of course. So that's where I had two different individuals this past fall, actually. They picked out outerwear jackets each, one male, one female, and didn't like how it looked. One didn't like the styling or the model of it. And we redid it. And I said, let's do something a bit more classic and that you're used to. And they're like, I think that makes sense.
You mentioned the female line, Nick. What's the percentage for Tom James for their overall business line is women versus men's fashion?
It's definitely nowhere near a 50-50 split. I think a lot of women are still getting turned on to this. Most never thought this was available to them, really, because it's always been depicted in media, movies, whatever, as something just for men. I mean, you can probably rattle off 4 different men's clothing stores here in the Fox Valley before you could really think about where do women go get clothes here outside of the Oshkosh Outlet Mall. So I think as we continue to grow and continue to revamp our women's line, month over month at this point with different and new and exciting things, I think we're going to eventually get to a 50-50 split, if not maybe even have more business on the women's side than the men's, because there's so many different challenges that they run into that we as gentlemen here on this call don't experience, whether it's fit, the brand, the inconsistencies from store to store, etc. We're pretty classic. I mean, I've been wearing 2-button suits for the last 12 years. I haven't done a double-breasted yet for myself. I finally got myself an outerwear coat, a raincoat. Like, it's a hot minute before things, new things get implemented into our wardrobes, whereas women are constantly changing. And I think at some point we'll probably exceed the men's sales. I don't know when that will be, but I imagine it's up and to the right.
Now, you mentioned too the idea of the future growth there of that business, that line of business, and kind of let's put the future cap on here a little bit. And can you maybe just give listeners an idea of where you see your book of business over the next 5 years, where it's going to trend towards?
My personal vision, my personal goal of what I want my business to be looking like in a sales capacity, I want to be 1.7 million, maybe pushing $2 million in sales. Having just hit the 900,000 mark last year in 2025, or just shy of it. The new goal being 1.3 to achieve kind of the next sales level with some cool accoutrements that come with it, recognition. I think that's where 5 years from now, that's attainable. It's doable. It's probably going to have 450, 500 rolling 12 clients. So going from roughly 300, 315 right now, as we're sitting here today recording and talking about this, to 450, 500, it's going to take some time. But as long as I'm doing the right things at the right time and helping the right people, I think it's totally achievable. Outside of sales, I'm hoping to, step into more leadership and oversee kind of the tri-state or quad state area. I'd love to, kind of lead the whole Wisconsin, Minnesota, Michigan, Illinois, Iowa offices that we have there, as kind of being their regional, representative, if that makes sense. I think that makes sense.
Okay. And real quickly, with just about a minute left here, how would you measure your success beyond final sales numbers? What 1 or 2 things just jump out to you that say, hey, this is making me feel successful?
Absolutely. I think my leaders always continues to say it to me, and he said it to me from the get, is never be discouraged by your results, be encouraged by your activity. So as we go through these ebbs and flows of being results focused, I'm always trying to do better and not think about those final numbers, and really just think about, am I doing the right things? The 4-quadrant thing, urgent, not important, that kind of thing. If I'm focusing on just setting appointments and seeing people, everything else is going to take care of itself, as long as I'm being service minded and just taking great care of clients.
Are you having fun?
Even through the tough times, I still have fun, even when it feels like I want to run through a brick wall. This is what I'm supposed to do, and I can't imagine doing anything else with my life.
All right. We'll be right back, listeners. Thank you for listening in to Biz Talk with Score on WHBY.
Welcome back to Biz Talk with Score. Before we get back to our guest, I'd like to thank our sponsors for their generous support of Biztalk. Haling and Associates helps small businesses and individuals not just prepare tax returns, but plan for the future. Haling and Associates, personal connection, positive results. Wherever you are in life or the life of your business, Johnson Financial Group works to match the banking and wealth services needed to help you complete your mission. Thank you to the Business News for promoting our program in the biweekly business newspaper serving Northeast Wisconsin with the latest business news and topics for the region. We are grateful for the support of Community First Credit Union. At its core, Community First is a community of member owners where people work together to improve their financial well-being and help one another. New North, the Regional Marketing and Economic Development Corporation, is an active supporter of SCORE. The New North facilitates economic growth and helps people in this region live their best lives. Since 1919, Baird has guided families through investment, trust, estate, and tax planning advice. So no matter what the future brings, you can be confident you're ready, as your family is Baird's focus. And finally, we would like to recognize the David L. and Rita E. Nelson Fund within the Community Foundation for the Fox Valley region for their generous donation to Biztalk and SCORE Northeast Wisconsin. With that, we'll turn back to our guest, Nick Badilla from Tom James Professional Clothier. And Nick, could you let our listeners know how they can find out more about you and your business?
Absolutely. The best place to start would probably be turning to Google and just looking for Tom James Fox Valley. Will be one of the first, 2 hits, obviously, as you search for that. That'll take you to our webpage. It'll take you to my bio page. I'm very active on LinkedIn as well as other socials, but LinkedIn is probably going to be your second option to track me down. My cell phone and email are littered everywhere, so there's no privacy there. So anybody can drop me a text, give me a phone call direct to my cell phone, and get in touch with me, and I can help out in any way that I can.
Okay, and I'll turn it back over to Rick to wrap up the show.
All right, Nick, I guess I'd just like to give you the opportunity. I've known you. You're so good at sales because it's relationship building for you. But can you just kind of walk me through how would you, when you sit down with me first time, how would you convince me that I should go to you? I should be buying clothing from you the way you're talking about through the in-person visit versus going to JCPenney or some other place?
Great question, Rick. And it takes me back to, our first time sitting down, and it's, all the new clients that have come through as of late. I think it really, it's not to sound like a broken record, but it really comes down to the questions I ask and the questions that people maybe aren't used to getting when they go into a store. It's, what brings you in today? Or can I help you find something, right? That's the immediate answer is obviously, no, I'm good. I'm just browsing or whatever. But if you're bringing someone like me in or one of my colleagues in, and we're going to meet with you at your home or your office, then we got to be prepared. We got to be the experts. We got to be professional. Especially if you're 23 years old, like I was when I was starting, like you have to be presentable and be able to be taken seriously, as a young professional. And I think when you start digging in on the questions, what piqued your interest today? If we were going to invest in your wardrobe, it's a foregone conclusion. We're investing $10,000, $5,000, much like you go through the process of renovating your home, your basement, whatever. What do we need to start with? What are you missing? What do you feel like needs the most, you wear the most and needs updating along the way? What are the challenges? What value do you look for when it comes to your wardrobe? Those are the types of questions that I think people all of a sudden, the paradigm shifts and they're like, this is someone who's going to be more intentional than if I just walk into Penny's or I walk into TJ Maxx trying to find some shirts or, Men's Warehouse or wherever. You're getting someone who's a trained professional and is there to, to take his or her career seriously and to serve you.
And when you have that consultation with someone, what kind of things do you look for in their kind of their body, their nonverbal communicating style? What things do you pick up on it as you're addressing those?
I think when people are more engaged and they're touching things, it's a pretty good sign that there's real interest here. There's a real opportunity to get started. from there, unfolding of arms and other body language, more engagement. I think that's the biggest thing.
Okay, Nick, thank you very much. It's been a very interesting show. It's the first time that I know of we've had a professional clothier on, at least in the last 8 or 9 years, and it was a great show, and I think people would have gotten a lot out of it. So thank you very much. So,
Thank you, Nick.
To our listeners, thanks again for listening to Biz Talk with Score on WHBY. You can find this episode and previous episode on our website at score.org/Northeast Wisconsin, or you can find us on various podcatchers as well as on WHBY every Saturday morning. So we're very appreciative to you. We're also very appreciative to WHBY for their continued support for the show. So join in next week when we have another client or guest, from the area. Thank you very much. Have a great weekend.